what I want to talk to you about. Trending all day today on the tweeties, was Chuck Todd. And every time the name Chuck Todd is mentioned on these here airwaves, whether it's the after show, whether it's on Hugh's show, the calls and letters, well, Chuck Todd begets more email reaction than any other guest we have on. We conducted a focus poll on this show, including a whole bunch of the regular guests, and ran it by, spent a ton of money. Salem spent a boatload of money to actually do focus research and did a research group on this show. Topics Hugh would talk about, how he handled interviews, different regular guests we had on, all this kind of stuff. And we have a favorite guest, according to the focus poll. That would be Sonny Bunch. Surprised all of us, actually. Not that Sonny Bunch is a bad guy, but it's just kind of curious that, somebody that doesn't even really do politics is the favorite guest on a political-based talk show. Okay, live with that. Up the minute count per week for Sonny Bunch. All is well. We have a least favorite. I'm not going to tell you who the least favorite is. It's not Chuck Todd. It's somebody that you actually honestly would never guess would be the least favorite. And it's not it doesn't matter, it doesn't change anything anyway. Chuck Todd, honestly, on the spectrum of most to least, dead smack in the middle. He's neither the most liked or the least liked or anywhere even close to the ends of the spectrum, right smack dead in the middle of the bell curve. So, with the majority of the focus group of people that listen to the show, most people are fine with a once-a-week appearance by Chuck Todd. They don't have a problem with it. He's just like most of the other guests, right? But the people that take the time, that are on the edges of the bell curve, and I'm not saying you're unusual, abnormal, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying you're outside of the bell curve. If you take the time to go to the web app and you fill out the little form that's on the website to send your missive off to Hugh that I sometimes read on Fridays for letters, which is, of course, Major Bob's favorite segment of the week. I get more Chuck Todd screed and hate email than I do about anybody else. And it's that way on Twitter. People on the right on Twitter, which is not the bell curve of conservatism, it's the noisy voices on Twitter, I think, are kind of on the ends. They're the goal line. It's not the in between the 40s, right? Mostly. Not a perfect analogy, but most people within the 40s aren't going to go out of their way to screed at somebody. But if you had to sum up MSM into one person that is the most galvanizing person in MSM, take Trump out of it. Trump is the most divisive figure in American political life right now. If you mention Donald Trump in any event with family or whatever else, you're going to have to be prepared to put on armor at some point because you either love him or hate him. There's not much middle ground, right? Trump is the most divisive figure in American politics right now. A lot by his own hand, a lot not by his own hand. Take Trump out of it. If you were to pick somebody out of MSM, and I know that even triggers John Campbell when I call it MSM, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about opinion journalists like Sean Hannity. I'm not talking about opinion journalists like Rachel Maddow. I'm talking about quote-unquote straight news reporters / journalists. If you were to single down MSM into the most divisive figure that is a quote-unquote straight journalist, who would that figure be? My proposition is it's Chuck Todd. And it's not just people on the right that light him up every time he opens his mouth. There was a piece today in Rolling Stone, an interview that Chuck Todd gave to Rolling Stone, in which he said, among other things, that he was naive at how easily the disinformation and lies would come out of the Republican camp. Talked about Kellyanne Conway and Sean Spicer and, the early Trump gang, and how easily the Republicans lied. Republicans lie, and I was just caught flat-footed. I was naive at how easily the disinformation came out of the Republicans, says Chuck Todd. Now, I'm not here to defend Chuck Todd. I am not here to prosecute Chuck Todd. I am conducting Chuck Todd the social science experiment. And this is where I could use your help because I'm genuinely curious. 1-800-520-1234. It's not just the right that is attacking Chuck Todd. When this Rolling Stone article came out, within an hour afterwards, a lefty blogger named Jay Rosen over at PressThink used that comment, the same comment that our side is saying, see, why do you give that guy airtime? You shouldn't give that airtime. He's obviously biased. He thinks all Republicans lie. You should never have him on again. You should only talk to people who aren't so biased against us. Well, number one, you don't get to tell me who we book on the show. You get to listen. You don't have to listen. That's your choice. Nowhere in the contract between listener and show does it say listeners get to dictate who is the guest and who is not the guest and when said guest will happen. That's just not what the relationship is. If you like us, great. I'm all for it. If you don't like us, well, I can't please everybody. But it's not just the right that's attacking them over the same thing. The fever swamp on the left is attacking Chuck Todd mercilessly online. That's why he's trending so high on Twitter. The fever swamp is attacking him because I think he isn't sufficiently lefty enough for them. Because he's been given the golden platform of Meet the Press. He's the number one watched Sunday show in America. And he allows Republican voices on. Damn him. And he doesn't cut him off, and he doesn't challenge him enough. And he didn't understand that he was too naive to understand all Republicans lie, says the Fever Swamp. Why? We've always known since birth. As soon as we could form words, we knew Republicans lied as soon as they opened their pie holes. How could he not understand? He's a dummy. He's an idiot. Why can't he go? We need a different host because he doesn't understand how big of a threat to our ideals Donald Trump is in Republicans. He should be attacking them harder. He needs to have his show taken away from him. Yes, that's what's coming after Chuck Todd today. I'm not asking for empathy. I'm not asking for pity. Like the line out of The Godfather, this is the business we've chosen. This is the business that Chuck Todd chose. I'm not saying that I'm going to pity him or defend him. What I'm saying is I think Chuck Todd is the most polarizing member of MSM that purports to be a mainstream reporter. Number one question for you. Do you agree with me that he's the most emblematic figure of MSM that people point to? Jake Tapper is a possible entry. There's lots of people you can name. I was talking to Ed Morrissey today. He thought Don Lemon was. But I don't think Don Lemon is because he's no longer a straight news journalist. He is an opinion guy. His show is on later at night on CNN. He's more of an opinion journalist. So is Anderson Cooper. Rachel Maddow certainly is. Chris Matthews certainly is. I'm talking about somebody who purports to be not an opinion person, but just trying to be a news reporter. Brett Baer is a straight news reporter, but I certainly believe he's right of center. But he's not anywhere near as polarizing as Chuck Todd is. Even on the Fever Swamp on the left, he's not. Chuck Todd, who I do believe is left of center, And I do believe he hits Republicans harder than he hits Democrats. I certainly take all that. I do understand all that. But nobody lights people up and gets people going more than Chuck Todd does. That's my proposition. One, do you agree with that? Two, why? Why is Chuck Todd the trigger on this? Why is Chuck Todd trending on Twitter? I understand the interview he gave, but why is it that Chuck Todd creates such animosity on both sides, on both extremes? They're attacking him over the same comment he made from opposite ends of the same coin. 1-800-520-1234. I have my theory, but I'm actually genuinely curious why you think that's the case. 1-800-520-1234. Let's see who is here now. After show, who's this? Hello, hello.
YYT.
Hey, YYT, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing well. So, did you hear my little setup on Mr. Todd?
I did hear your setup on Chuck, and I was actually listening to Ed as well. You and Ed earlier today. Heard both of you discussing that then.
So what do you think? Do you agree with my premise, number one?
That he's the most divisive?
The most divisive of quote-unquote, news journalists, news reporters.
Straight. Yeah, I think he's definitely there, perhaps Brian Stelter, but certainly Chuck Todd,
he's just a media critic, though, right? He's not a straight news reporter. He's just a media critic, right? He's not...
I guess, well, that's how he's billing himself, I guess. But, if you ask any of those guys on CNN, they'll all call themselves objective journalists, right? Even the ones that are obviously opinion hosts.
Okay.
They're all going to call themselves straight news guys.
But do people on the left, do people on the fever swamp attack Brian Stelter the way that they attack Chuck Todd?
No, definitely not. Chuck definitely does get.
That's what I'm saying.
You pointed out.
But when I say the most divisive, I mean from both ends of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, anybody who's ever going to have any conservative guest on will get hit for that. Even guys that aren't even conservative Republican anymore, like Bill Kristol.
Right.
For example, those kind of people will still, I'm sure there's, the phone lines that the networks are still getting lit up whenever they appear because they're still not, you can never bow down far enough. You can't submit because it's never going to be good enough, as we all know.
So why do you think Chuck Todd lights everybody up the way he does?
I don't know what it is about Chuck specifically. It's hard to put my finger on. The thing about Chuck and really all these guys is, anybody who wants to look at it will know that they are Democrats. Like Chuck, you can go onto his Wikipedia page and it says right there that he started out working on different political campaigns and he worked for Tom Harkin, senator from Iowa.
Sure.
And I think his wife is worked for Jim Webb as well. So it's obvious that the guy is a partisan, and they all claim that they're completely straight, but you can see that they were
again
partisan Democrats.
Again, Brett Baer tries to play as straight as he can on Fox, but I know he's a center right guy. I know Brett Hume is a center right guy, but they do the best they can to report straight up journalism. I know Chuck Todd is left of center. Of course he is. You can tell, but they at least.
He would never admit that, though. I don't think.
I'm not sure Brett Baer would admit. I'm not sure Brett Baer would admit he's center right. Would he?
Maybe not. I don't watch him enough to really know whether he.
I think he would dodge it. I think he would dodge it, and he would say, "I'm just trying to report the news. You decide."
Chuck would certainly dodge it. I don't know about Britt, but Chuck is always extremely evasive, and I think this is something that Chuck had mentioned when or John had mentioned last time you were speaking. That Chuck is very, very evasive. Whenever he tries to kind of corner him on a more difficult question, he's very evasive. And if he would just come out straight and ask him about his past work as a partisan Democrat or just his political opinions, he would dodge it immediately. And I know that Hugh is not going to do that because he's not a confrontational guy, very much like that. And he wants to have, very good relations with everybody.
Honestly, there is no gain. There really is no gain to do it. There is a quick sugar high it would give people that if Hugh were to do it. But long term, what does it get you?
Not a whole lot.
It eventually would get you partisan radio. It would eventually get you Sean Hannity. It would eventually get you Mark Levin. And honestly, truly, as much as I admire both of those guys, because they both have a great following, they both have their own shtick, and I can appreciate the craft of radio. Honestly, it's kind of dull to just listen to your own side the whole time and not have your ideas challenged a little bit here and there and think through different aspects of things.
Right, which is why personally I like Hugh having on diverse groups of guests. I know you can see on Twitter and everywhere else everybody else complaining as soon as Chuck or any of the other mainstream media personalities come on the show and everybody says, okay, I'm turning off now. But I think it's good that he does that because I think we do need that dialogue. Although I would suggest that maybe just have people on who are open about their partisan affiliations rather than pretending to be objective purveyors of news when we know what their biases is. Because even though you and I both know what the bias is, there is some small segment of the population out there that has been getting molded by mainstream media opinion for decades, not fully understanding what the bias is.
Agreed. But I think that number
talk about how bad their ratings are, but people still do watch these people.
Of course. I do, though, think that number is declining with each successive generation.
Of course it is, and you can look at the numbers and see what the ratings are, and Fox is miles ahead of all the other networks combined.
So, Ed's prospect today, it was because when you try to be more of a centrist, you try to go middle of the road and at least give both sides. Even if you've got your thumb on the scale, but even if you try to go both sides, you're into Loudon Wainwright territory, right? Dead skunk in the middle of the road, right? You're naturally going to get hammered from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Do you buy that as a thing, or my theory, which is if you're okay,
we'll go ahead with your theory.
My theory is if you're the number one show, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you're the number one show, you're going to get flamed a lot more than anybody else because you're king of the mountain type thing.
Yeah, well, just by pure numbers, more people watching you, I guess.
So, where do you think this goes from here? Do you think there's ever putting this genie back in the bottle again post-Trump, or is this just the new world we're in because of social media and cable news?
I think that things have definitely shifted permanently. I think that it remains to be seen exactly how politics and really everything, because Trump is not just Trump on his own, but just everything has changed dramatically since the election. It was already changing, and the election made it change even more. And things may kind of not revert to total normalcy or the way they were before, but things have definitely shifted a lot, and they may change a little bit. But I think that this is kind of a new normal to some degree. It may continue just to escalate until everything kind of blows up, and then things might have to get put back together.
Yep, it's possible. YYZ, great effort. Thanks for calling in. Good to have you, and don't be a stranger, huh?
Yeah, I know. Thanks for having me. It's first time calling in. I'm told that I'm now a Tribble officially. I was sworn in by Severe Cruz. So. You are sworn to loyalty, and you have your avatar in the chat room, and you've made your debut call. You are officially just as much of a Tribble as Major Bob is. In fact, I could say you're probably even more of a Tribble than Major Bob, except I'm going to be in trouble for Major Bob because he's right behind you. Yeah. Don't let them hear that. We'll have to cut that part out. I think I might be the first Canadian Tribble, so. Hey, I don't mind international Tribbledom. I think that's just grand. I'm trying to tell Hugh he's got to get more of the international content rolling. He's got the UK election briefing that was going on with, I'm forgetting the guy's name, over in Brexit Central, but he should pay more attention to us here north of the border.
Yeah, but you just had your election, right?
We did, yeah. The federal election just passed, so. But we could be heading to another one pretty soon because we're in a minority parliament here, so it could, could be in another election.
Maybe
the Conservative Party's having a leadership election now because our leader just resigned. So,
well, maybe we can find somebody to at some point challenge Prime Minister Blackface.
That is the objective.
Okay. Well, YYZ, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, Duane.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, the aforementioned Major Bob joins the after show. Hello, Bob.
Hello, Duane. After that slander, I don't know if I should hang up on myself or not.
Oh, did I say that out loud?
Yeah, he did.
Oh.
Okay. Topic.
Number one, do you agree with my premise?
He probably is the most divisive, but it's probably not definable like what you're saying. I think it has to do with his show. I think he couches things in ways that he'd get. I mean, when you're getting the flack, you're over the target. He wants the clicks. He wants the views.
Right.
But so I think that's a large part of it. But Severe is kind of the grand poobah tonight in the chat room. He came up with some points that we were kicking around, and the thing is that Todd is very condescending. He's I don't know how smart he is, and I don't know what the stuff about the left wing jumping on him is, but he's very condescending, and Hugh claims to be his friend, and he knows him from the green room and all that, and I'm not going to challenge that. I mean, they could be best buds for all I know, but Hugh never disagrees with him. Never. I can remember.
Yeah.
He doesn't, and I know the show is an interview, not a debate. I know that's the theme of the Hugh show. Okay,
he has disagreed with them without necessarily pushing back and lighting them up. Certainly, well, here's the thing, Chuck. The way Hugh treats MSM right now is he knows that the Geneva Convention amongst pundits, where no matter who's in office, pundits, whichever side you're on, there's always a collegiality or a cordiality between pundits, and you don't attack other pundits, right? Or at least certainly not, in the way that we have done so now. Well, the Geneva Conventions amongst pundits has been lit on fire, and you now have all sorts of people on either side going weapons free on people that are either on their own side ideologically or the opposite side, depending on where they are on Trump, right? I mean, Jennifer Rubin is gone out where buses don't run anymore. There's all sorts of people that are attacking other pundits that you wouldn't normally see. And Hugh's attitude so far has been to kind of stay above the fray, in that he's never, ever, ever, ever going to launch the first wave attack. Now, if somebody goes after him and really lights him up publicly, well, may God be with you, because,
there has been a recent spoiling attack. There's been a recent spoiling attack, and we know it. We're not exactly sure who it was, but we think we know who it was.
I'm sure you do, and I'm not going to give it to you here. What I'm saying is, if you launch the first attack at Hugh and you make it personal, well, that's a horse of a different color. But if you'll notice, the one thing Chuck Todd has never done is made it personal with Hugh, right?
No, he has not done that. That's for sure. That's for absolutely sure. He is polite. He is professional, but he's phony and he's evasive. And I don't understand what this stuff by the left. Again, I'm repeating myself. What the stuff's coming from the left, but and I'm not as negative as some of the Tribbles are on Hugh. I think I understand his format and his approach and his Christianity and all that stuff. I just wish that he would push back sometimes on these people, and he doesn't, because that's not his thing. And again, I'm not a producer of his show, so I accept whatever you guys throw up. And I like it, and I love it.
Hugh
and I listen to Rush on my breaks at work, but I don't listen to all of Rush, except sometimes I'll go back and later onto the website and listen to him, on things that I want to hear. But I listen to every minute of Hugh Hewitt's show. Because it's on podcast.
Yeah, Hugh's attitude is, if he hears that somebody is being evasive, and it's somebody that's willing to come on a weekly basis, and he'll say things that are evasive, if Hugh can understand that, well, Bob, I'm sure you can too, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure even Severe out there can understand when somebody is being evasive, right?
Yeah.
So if even Severe out there can understand that somebody's being evasive, Hugh's pretty confident that the audience is going to hear the same thing he's hearing. He doesn't have to sit there and bludgeon them back with it.
But that's us. That's not the fever swamp. That's not the blinded by ideology leftist morons out there. And of course, he's not going to change their mind anyway. I understand that. I understand. So, I mean, I'm still down on Todd, but I'll listen to him, and I'll be driving home in the car and using language I learned in the Air Force.
Right. No, I get it. I understand. There's a lot of things Chuck says, or I'm just thinking, oh man, I can see the emails coming in before they come in. Right. I know when he says something, and it's like, oh no, here we go. I got to have another wave of emails. But it is what it is.
But we do get to hear that side now. Want to just put a footnote here.
Sure.
You mentioned Brett Baer and Britt Hume, and Britt Hume is it for me. I mean, I like really what he.
I love him to pieces. He's like the journalist we all want to be, right?
That's right. But there's one person who I will drop everything to listen to, and she changed networks. But it's Catherine Herridge.
Oh, she's terrific. She's terrific.
She's fabulous.
And
she gives it to you right straight between the eyes.
And I have no idea if she's a Republican or a Democrat. I have no idea how she votes.
And that's what I like. I mean, she just gives it to you straight. And and Chuck Todd ain't that.
No.
He ain't that, okay?
I understand. I agree.
Okay. I'll let you go.
Thanks, Bob. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
See you. Bye-bye. See, you guys can call. Even Severe can call. Well, maybe Severe can't call because, well, he writes better than he talks. At least, I think he does. I've actually never talked. I don't know if I've ever talked to Severe. That would be a Severe conversation. I'm not sure. Anyway, let me read this.